Hey everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Success School podcast. I just want to say thank you so much for being here and taking time to listen to the show today. And I also just want to make sure you are aware that my whole mission with this podcast is to be able to give people access to conversations that are going to enlighten, they're going to inspire, and they're going to give you the information needed to genuinely start to live a happier, a healthier, and a more fulfilling life. But here's the thing, I am just one man. So that's really, really hard to get a lot of people to be positively impacted when I'm doing this alone. So I'm just going to ask a little favor. And I know you're probably sick of hearing this. You probably hear it on every podcast you listen to. But please, if you genuinely do think this podcast is valuable and can help people, if you could just take a second to hit that subscribe button and maybe go one further, tell other people about it, share it on your Insta stories, anything you can do to help bring more awareness to the show would be greatly appreciated. Thanks for being here, and I really hope you enjoy this episode. Ali, a massive welcome to the show. If we can we just start with being clear? If people don't know who you are, what is it you actually do now? And what was your journey to get in there?
You sounded like my mum then. What is it that you do now?
What do you actually do? You still ain't got a clue. Yeah, same as mine.
I've told you this 1,000 times.
Yeah.
So I'm Ali. Thank you for having me, man. Really nice to see you. I'm wearing the hat, by the way, guys, because I saw that he was wearing a hat, and I thought, yes, I can finally sit in my comfy hat.
Yeah, you can be yourself on this show. That's it.
Yeah.
We can be Cap Brothers.
Yeah. So I'm a mindset transformation coach, and I started out as a meditation teacher because I won't go too much into my backstory unless you want to go there.
Do it. Give us it all, man.
Okay, here we go. Get the violins out and everything. In a nutshell, and it will be a nutshell, but feel free to ask me anything. From 6 years old, I had anxiety. And I now know anxiety is actually just fear. So the first thing I say to anyone that claims to have anxiety is stop saying you have anxiety because you are creating it. And you don't want to hear that when you've got it because you're like, you don't understand, you don't know what it's like. But I do know what it's like. And I went through it for years and years and years, and it was horrendous. And that led to lack of self-worth, a lot of fear around school. I was very dyslexic. I couldn't even say my own name when I was really young because I couldn't read and write very well. Alexander became Ali because I was they were like, just call him Ali. You know, let's not give him any more problems. Dyslexic, dyspraxic. I went down a year when I was 6. I was still at the bottom of those sets. It just wasn't, working up here. And so school was very difficult. And then there was a lot of fear around here. And I just started drinking and doing all the stuff that, teenagers do. And then I became an alcoholic. I was addicted, and I was in a heavy metal band. And before you know it, I'm in my 20s, out of my mind, traveling the world, and having really bad issues with sleeping, with just the whole thing. It was just horrendous. So it got to a point where my now wife said, whatever this is, you've got to figure it out. Otherwise I'm going. And that was my rock bottom moment. That was like, oh, if she leaves, I've messed up. Not me abusing myself and everything else. If she leaves, that's too much. So I started looking back at the books that I had on my shelf, the spiritual books. And I'm not here to, guide anyone down the kind of, hey, everybody come down the spiritual path. But I'm clearly that guy. I've got my beads, I've got my ring, and I've also just got a new crystal as well. So I'm showing you. Yeah. So I looked into all of that stuff, and a seed was planted. And ultimately, I'm not religious. Anyone can be religious or spiritual, whatever. I just came back to my breath. I came back to presence. I came back to the here and now, all the stuff that we all know. But I went full in. I went as hard into that stuff like I did into the alcohol and the drugs. And I think I needed to really make the pendulum swing. So it took a while, but I stopped drinking, I stopped smoking, I stopped doing all the drugs, and I found a life of balance. So again, I'm not here to say this is what you should do. I really believe we all need to find our balance. Do whatever you want as long as you know you're being true to yourself. And over the years, life just got easier and easier and easier and easier. And that's not to say I didn't have things to process and go through and obstacles and highs and lows. But I started to notice that I felt separate from these waves of emotion. So just to kind of pull it all the way back, I started teaching meditation. I was like, I can do this. And I kind of got bored of that and realized from everything that I'd learned, I could coach people. And my dad just died 2 weeks ago. And it was, a long process. And some of the things I teach is put notifications on your phone for something that's going to snap you out of whatever you're doing, something positive that's really going to pull you out at the moment. So one of the notifications on my phone is, "Isn't it wonderful?" And walking back from the nursing home, and this is the first time I've spoken about this, I got this notification on my phone. This is the day that he died. And it said, "Isn't it wonderful?" Now, a normal person would be like, "No, it's not wonderful. This is the worst day ever." But because of all the stuff that I teach and all the stuff that I've practiced and all of the rewiring that I've done, I was separate from what I was experiencing. And I could feel in that moment, it is wonderful. I've just been there I literally saw his last breath. I was with my sister. I remembered all of the good times. And in that moment, I was just in awe of the progress. And it was another reason to get, can I swear on this podcast?
Yeah, yeah, we
Okay,
definitely
good.
swear on this podcast.
In that moment, I was like, shit, this stuff works. And it's really helpful. It's really useful. And it was just another reminder that we all go through these massive waves, but that's what they are. They're just waves. They're just always going through. And that just all the way back on the train, I just had this big smile on my face and I was just sat in joy. I was sat in gratitude. And, obviously it's been wavy since,
Yeah,
but that to me kind of sums it up.
yeah, yeah.
Just like, wow, we're all doing amazing. We're all going through all sorts of things that nobody will ever truly know apart from you and your immediate friends and family. And having some grounding, something to anchor you and not get drawn in and let it all stick to you it's just such a gift.
Wow. I mean, that was a powerful start. I feel like the first word that came to my mind is gift. And I just think what a beautiful thing to think, we all go through, and obviously condolences to you, Ali, as well for that. And
Thanks.
I've, no doubt, exactly as you've just said there, it'll be waves and it's not all going to be smiling, of course not. But the fact that you've given yourself this gift of being able to see the good and see the beauty, even in the most harshest things, that's what this is all about, right? This whole reprogramming, this whole work. There's so much that you covered there. And I think, one thing that stood out to me is this idea that you almost initially had taken on the identity of anxiety, this idea that I have anxiety, I'm suffering with anxiety. And you said about how that would be really hard for somebody to hear when they're in that frame of mind. So I'm just wondering, from your personal experiences, how would you help guide somebody to move from that place of going, no, I know this is me, I've always had it, to kind of recognizing, as you've said, it's fear, it's an emotion, it's not your personality, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And great question as well, because that's the most powerful thing when someone subscribes to anything, I believe, uh, you're creating it. Your energy goes where, so attention goes where energy flows, or the other way around. And it literally comes down to that. So I taught a guy recently, he had anxiety for 5 years. I had it and held on to it for 10 years every day. And that's why I drank. So it's like, oh, it's gone away. but then I became an alcoholic because of it. And we got rid of his anxiety in 15 minutes.
Wow.
And I've checked in on him every week. It's been about 3 months now. It's not come back, and it won't. And it starts up here. You got to stop subscribing. I don't want to spend too much time on the anxiety because that's not where I spend my energy now. But what I would say is number one, unsubscribe from that which you don't prefer. So, whatever it is in life, what I'd say to anyone is write a list of everything that you don't prefer, what you don't like, what you don't want to keep on experiencing in this life. And then on the next piece of paper, write what you do prefer, where you want to go, where you want to lean into. And you don't have to know how it's going to happen, the money that you want to make, the people you want to inspire. Just having those two lists and looking at them and going, oh, there's like a line in the middle, and that line's your choice. And you can actually, I've never said that before. I'm gonna remember that one.
Keep that one, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, just give me a second. And but it comes down to that. It's a choice. And most of us are just conditioned because we've been saying, I have, I do, I always. So get this, if you want a little nugget, this is the nugget. There is no I always. There is no sometimes I do. There is no I have. Look at it like this. Everything in this moment is a blank canvas. If you've had anxiety or depression or anything, it's coming from your past. You're jumping into the past to remember what you've had. Unless you're experiencing it right now in this moment, you're recalling the past. So when my clients say, well, sometimes I go, that's a lie. And they go, what are you talking about? I say, well, you're projecting what you do not want to happen into the future. So it's really like you're saying, well, I always do this. And your future self is going, okay, yep, anxiety, you only make how much? Okay, yep, sure.
So it's kind of like reaffirming it in the present.
Yeah. So the first thing to do is, we talk about positive self-talk, affirmations, and they're all amazing. I use them all the time. They're great. But really, it's underneath the hood. It's the negative self-talk that we really want to look at. So, I mean, look at it. Television, tell a vision. Breakfast, break fast, break the fast. Disease, dis-ease. Words are like spells, and that's why they call it spelling. We are spelling our reality all the time, positively, negatively. And it's like, hang on a second, television, why have I never heard that before? Tell a vision. It's in everything. And when you become conscious to the thoughts you're thinking and the words you're saying, what you're texting, oh, she always does this. Well, hang on a second. You're now expecting her to keep doing that. So what we want to do is we want to watch what we're thinking, watch what we're texting, what we're saying, and what we're reaffirming, and just pause before we cast those spells. So I always just say, anytime you say anything negative, self-deprecating, or unwanted, just catch it and reframe it in the past. In the past, I've done X, Y, and Z, but now I'm open to that changing. You don't lie to yourself. You don't say, oh, now I'm a multimillionaire. In the past, I've had a bad problem with money. I've kept on spending it. Did you hear that? I nearly said keep on spending it. That would be a lie, because I don't keep on doing it because that's the future. But I've kept on doing this, but now I'm open to that changing. That tells your subconscious to go, oh, we're breaking that pattern.
Have you got any tips for people so they're hearing this, say, for the first time, and they're like, oh, wow, I've never thought of it like that. And this makes logical sense. But obviously they've got these patterns they've created over some of us decades.
Yeah.
So in terms of being more aware in the moment to catch ourselves, Have you any tips around how to make this a practice and how to become more aware of it in the moment, not just when they're listening to a podcast and they have a moment of, oh, that sounds good, and then they forget about it?
Yeah, that's it's all probably like the best question because really like you can listen to a million tips, you can read all the books, you can, sometimes we read two books at a time. We take on all of this information, but really the power is in doing it. And so the first thing I say is if you've got a partner, amazing, or if you've got a good friend that's on the same wavelength, amazing, and tell them this and get your partner or your friend to go have like a code word. Me and my wife just go, and just point to each other. So anytime she says, just I'm always anytime, and we catch each other, and that just helps you get there quicker. So with a friend, anytime you get a message, just send it back and say, can you rephrase this, please, or
Mm.
whatever. So another person is brilliant. And that's why, obviously, working with a coach, I'm brutal with my clients. I'm like, what? What was that? We're not moving on until you rephrase it. But ultimately, it's just taking this stuff seriously. It's this is your life. You are casting spells, creating your reality, whether you like it or you don't like it. So before you even think about applying any of the tools that you want to start applying, what I did was I had a word with myself and I wrote down what would happen if I didn't make it, all of the things, if it didn't happen. And then I wrote, what would it look like if I did? And I stared at the didn't page and it was just horrible. And that was enough to scare me into doing all of these tips. So, having a big why, having a real reason and locking into that, like, why am I listening to this? Why am I showing up for working with you? And why am I spending this energy? What's underneath it all? Is it is it a big dream that I absolutely have to achieve in this lifetime? And if it is, pick three things that you want to practice that you know that are going to be good, and write sticky notes on your mirror. Have notification on your phone. Have a whiteboard. Have all of those things and create a surround sound effect in your house. So every mirror that you see, you're reminded, a notification that goes off at 9, 12, 3, 6. It's essentially brainwash yourself, for lack of a better word, positively brainwash yourself before the world brainwashes you, because it
Mm.
is, and it does.
I love that. I just feel like there's so many things to take away from that to really think about. And the things that jump out at me is it's about accountability with support, not just it all being about going on this journey alone. I think it's being mindful of the consequence and the cost of not doing it. It's
Yes.
about being focused on it as intentional work is what I'm hearing as well. Like take it seriously and like you said, be present as well. Be in the moment as a general practice to focus on. So I'm really hoping that there's loads of things that people are taking from this immediately that are like, I can actually do this. This is not like really crazy stuff, but it's that compound effect, right? Of small, consistent daily actions that are going to make big changes in your life. I know I've heard you speak about this idea of you're focused on helping people with, you talk about escaping the matrix and living the life that you want to live. So I'd love to delve into that. What do you mean when you say escape the matrix, and how can we live the life we want to live?
I was working in a pub. I worked in pubs for 15 years. I'm 41 now, and I spent a long time just working for not a lot of money, and I didn't realize what I could do. And a friend of mine, anyone in the corporate world, I always put on a pedestal because of, I wasn't very academic. You know, I couldn't do all of that stuff. And I was working behind the bar once, and a friend of mine who is a lawyer said, "Oh, what do you want to do? What's your big plan?" Blah, blah, blah. And I said, "I want to live abroad, have a house in England, and spend my winters abroad." And he went, "Good luck with that." And I remember in that moment, like reality split into two, not actually, but just kind of
Yeah.
up here. And one side of me was like, oh God, what was I thinking? Of course, like if he's laughing at that and he can't, he's clearly got loads of money and he's very wealthy and blah, blah. If he can't do that, what am I even, serving him beer, these big dreams. And the other half of me was like, no, that's what's in here. And surely I wouldn't have that feeling
Mm.
so strong if I wasn't meant to at least attempt it or do it. So it was this real, static. And now I've said that, I've forgotten the question. It was about escaping the matrix. So it set something in motion of like, you know what, I'm just gonna do this thing. And if I fail, it doesn't matter because I failed so much anyway, you know, and failure's part of success. We know this, don't we? Like you have to kind of go back to go forward. You have to fail to readdress. And sometimes the fails are actually the biggest wins when they manifest. So my wife and I spoke about it and we're like, yeah, let's just do it. Let's just do it and work it out. So we started traveling for like chunks at a time and I'm working online. What's the difference? I'm working in London, working in Thailand, and then we're in Australia, then we're in Cape Town, and we lived in Costa Rica. And we kind of had it set out. We were in Thailand, come home for Christmas, see the family, and then go to Costa Rica. And we're on year two of this, and we had to come back. And now we're selling this place and my mother-in-law's place because we need to look after the mother-in-law. She's got dementia. So we've had to kind of put a pin in the escape the matrix lifestyle, living on the beach, coconuts, and all that sort of stuff. But it is what it is. And we've got the business and it's more about how we feel here, how we are here. We're present. We've got to do what we've got to do right now. But ultimately we escaped that 9 to 5 world that wasn't right for us. And it's so right for so many people, but not this guy. And maybe not most of you, I assume. I don't know. But the point to all of this is there's something here that we all have.
Yeah.
And when the mind and the heart align, it's just undeniable that you know what you've got to do. And it's the worries, it's the doubts, it's the fears, it's the programming that make us go, oh, I'm just going to settle, or I'm just going to stay in my lane. I'm not going to think about that again. But one thing I always say is dreams buried alive never die. And I want to say that again because it's so great. Dreams buried alive never die. They just come back. They come up and get you. When you're trying to go to sleep at night, you should have done that. You should have said that thing. You should have done that thing. And I think the thing that makes me buzz more than anything is there's none of that. I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing, and I've still got a lot of things I want to achieve, but I'm I'm not helping someone else build their dream.
Okay, there's so much I want to go into on this. I think as well. I just kind of think because I reflect on what you said there about, the 9 to 5 is so right for so many. And I even questioned that to go, it's not though, is it?
Oh,
They're programmed to believe it's so right for them. And it's easier to distort the truth because it's more comfortable to believe. I just question.
I would agree with you, but I have friends who have jumped ship, tried to create their businesses, and then
Yeah.
gone back because the safety, the security is so much better for them
Yeah.
than than all of that. And that's when I realized, oh, we're just
Yeah,
wired
you're right.
different.
Yeah.
And I think people like you and I, we're just not meant for that world because we can carve our own path and become our own boss and just do it. I truly believe that not everyone can do that.
I agree with that. And I've even got a friend that I identify as being like what you're saying there, where he is happier with the comfort and the simplicity and the structure and being told what to do. He is actually happier with it. But then again, he's never tried to do it differently. So who knows? For him, maybe,
I
maybe
think
not.
one of the faults of people like us is the freedom we get from following our dreams is so amazing,
Mm,
even when it's difficult, even when the
yeah,
clients, start to dip or whatever, the freedom, the time freedom that is just magical. We just assume that everybody else would want that, but
of
the
course.
fear that they would have with, all of the other
Yeah, yeah,
stuff that we've got to
yeah.
deal with would just be too much.
Well, that's the other thing then. If someone's hearing that and they go, oh my God, that speaks to me so much. Like, yes, imagine traveling the world and having a business on automation and online. And I think what crops up for people then is it's that person laughing that laughed at you. It's that, oh, get in the real world. It's self-doubt. It's fear of judgment. It's fear of failure. So how would you guide somebody if that's where they're at listening to this? Is yes, it speaks to their heart, but all that stuff creeps in.
I think it comes back to that knowing when the mind and the heart is aligned, and so that's why meditation's so powerful. So this is why what I kind of did was, 20 years worth of, well, 25 years worth of research. I started collecting the most potent things: self-talk, meditation, um, rewiring tools, and I basically created my own method to help people with just that. So in that case, meditation, I like to say if yoga is like climbing the mountain, you might have heard, I've stolen this quote from someone, by the way, I'm not claiming it.
You can have it.
Medit
No one will know.
Actually, no, this is one of mine. Yes. If yoga is like climbing the mountain, then meditation is like stopping on that mountain and going in one of the caves to
Hmm.
just, you know, to rest. And that's when you get those insights.
Hmm.
And you can get the same going for a run. You go for a long walk and you don't listen to anything. You just know. And I think there's ego and there's intuition. And we all know when we get that intuitive feeling it just doesn't feel like our thoughts that we've put together. It's a knowing. And I truly believe we all know what we've got to do, and we just talk ourselves out of it because of the fear and the doubt and blah 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 blah. So the answer to the question would be stop fucking around.
And also, what I hear in that is it's things like the meditation that bring you back to the truth and not just the fears and all
It's
the
like
layers we've added on.
it clears all the noise, and m most of the issues, the problems, and well, they're not out there for one. I had someone come to me and she's like, I just want to be, I'm just trying to find my confidence. I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. There's no finding confidence. You are confident. There's just noise, there's static, there's programming that's told you
Mm.
that you're not. So for someone that really knows that they want to take that leap, they also can feel the doubt. And what I love to help people do is go, right, let's figure out what's stopping you from doing that thing. Where is it? Da, 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 da. Oh, we've got a bit of self-doubt. We've got a bit of lack of confidence here. And it's just finding the right tools to polish the mirror,
That was a
essentially.
good sound effect. That sounded like you actually did.
I, I've definitely done that one before.
You have. I love what you said there about it's the problems don't really lie outside, they're within. And it just made me think of a lot of people on the call tonight listening live will know we recently did a challenge and it's to get people out of the comfort zone, it's to push themselves. And I say, I've run these challenges for years, and I always say that the most common line I hear once people have done it is, it wasn't as bad as I thought it
Right.
was going to be. And the lesson there is it's our thoughts that make it so much worse than it is in reality. And it just reminded me of that, yeah, the problems generally are all going on in here. And what I'm hearing from you is it's about removing all that, and it's about coming back to truth and seeing it for what it is. And I think if anyone's hearing that and they're like, okay, there's some really good stuff there to help me mentally and emotionally make some shifts. What about them practically? Because this idea of escaping the matrix, traveling where you want to, and having a a successful, profitable online business, a lot of people are like, oh, I have no idea how I could do that. So is there anything you could share in terms of what the steps were? How did you make this become a reality?
Well, first of all, because we're online, it to me it was literally a case of, okay, my job is on a laptop. So I literally could be anywhere. But then we've got this flat and it's our flat. So that's, one thing. Like if you got to think about your living situation. How are we going to go somewhere and get someone in here with all that stuff? It's just, oh, you know what, forget about it. No, let's figure it out. So the first objection, the first problem, let's just figure it out. Put it out on Facebook. Someone popped up straight away. I'll take you flat. Okay, well, that's done. Oh no, now we've got to do it. And there's just a million steps to everything. We know about chunking stuff down. It's always just lots and lots and lots and lots and lots more little steps. And my
Mm.
wife spends, oh, see, I nearly did it. My wife
Yeah.
spends a lot of time in the future.
Yeah.
I'm casting that spell there. I'm now expecting her to keep doing that. In the past, my wife has spent a lot of time in the future. So she's trying to figure out a lot of these things. And we talk about this a lot about sometimes when you set the intention of what you want and you project it and you create your vision board or you just map it out, sometimes, and this has happened to me over and over again, and I know it's happened to you guys too, is when you just lean into it, things just happen. The right conversations, the opportunities will present themselves. The thought of who was going to come and live in our flat, what we were going to do with all this stuff was just enough to make us go, forget about it. One thing on Facebook, I think it was about 12 minutes later, sorted. And obviously, it's not going to be like that all the time. But the point is, if you want it enough, you know, I'm starting here. This is where I'm going. It's like a GPS in your car. You don't know the journey. You don't know what it looks like. You don't know that you might break down. You don't know that you might go wrong and have to come back and then go, no, but the GPS knows where you're going. It's the same with life. You type in where you want to go, the person you want to be with, whatever you want, and then it's a simple recipe of consistently showing up, leaning in, even if you don't know what to do, just show up and expect the results, and live from that space as if it's already happened. I would say that's the manifesting formula.
Mhm.
But the problem is most people go, it sounds so simple, sounds too easy, and then they just don't do it. But I didn't finish school. I have no qualifications, well, nothing that I can use. And everything that we've done has just been the next thing. Let's just concentrate on the next thing. And before you know it, you're already doing it, and then you're just planning the next thing. That's the thing I'm practicing now is I've been manifesting amazing things, and I'm not even taking a moment to go, this, I dreamt this. It's like, yeah, 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 of course.
Mm.
And that's the thing I'm practicing every day is everything that's happening, even if it's a tiny good thing, a huge thing or a tiny good thing, just going, yes, you, you. Because
Such a
if you can't
beautiful
be
thing.
if you can't be thankful for what you've got now,
Yeah.
how can you even expect to be thankful for that thing that you really, really want in the
Yeah.
future,
Because
which
you'll
never,
just you'll
yeah,
just be back on the okay, well I've got it now, what next? And I
yeah,
think so many of us are guilty of that. And it really is a turning point when you grasp that and then practice that. I have a thing where when I go on my morning walk, where there's a spot where I can just see fields and sky and it's early and the sun's and I just take in the fresh air, and wherever I'm at that day, I just think, fuck, I'm here again. I've got another chance. I've got another opportunity. I'm alive. I've got so many amazing things in my life. Yes, I'm moving forward and there's other things I'd like, but this in itself is so amazing. And it's one of my favorite bits of the day. Like just
yeah,
that simplicity. is so powerful. And I also love what you're saying about, because I think we can listen to stories on podcasts like this and the rags to riches stories and the I had this dark moment and then I made a change and then it just all went bang, bang, bang. Everything's incredible. And I love, this idea of the reality, because I've been reflecting on this recently, which is just saying yes to what you want and then leaning into it and taking action will often then lead to, oh, it wasn't how I thought. So it's this. Oh, no, that's not right. It's not just a linear because I've now said yes and leaned into. It's the learning through consistently not backing down
Mm.
that helps you find that route. But if you wait to have the full route given to you and go, this is the direction, this is the full steps of the next 20 years, you'll be waiting forever and then you'll miss it.
Like the
And I just
perfect
think
strategy, like,
the
oh, I'll just
perfect strategy,
this,
yeah, it
this
doesn't
doesn't exist.
exist.
No.
You just have, and I'm really so glad you've shared that in your journey. And I know I've got a similar thing of, I almost think if there's just one thing you could take away from this, that's one of the most powerful things, is stop needing everything to be figured out. Just go for what you want and take messy action, take confusing action, have fear, but just keep taking action. And bit by bit, as you said, those small decisions and steps and solving problems as they come, before you know it, then bolt on what you've said there. Now look at how far you've come and appreciate this moment. Before you know it, you've got this compound of beautiful
Yeah.
progress.
Yeah. And then just to add to that, the one thing that's really made me just relax into my own body and in my own world is when I kind of figured out that all I really needed to do was be on the path I'm meant to be on. And some days are going to be crap. Sometimes you got the high waves and all that stuff. Just as long as I'm on that path, so I can go to bed at night with a smile on my face and
Mm.
knowing that I haven't figured it out yet. I've still, there's other people doing it better, all of that stuff. I'm on the path. What's Rumi say? As you walk the way appears. It doesn't, I think that's right, but it doesn't get better than that. It's just walk in that direction and know that that's the direction you're meant to be in. So that's one thing. The present, just to be, leave that job and dive into the thing that you're meant to be doing. Um, Leave that partner, be with the right, don't have a partner, but knowing that it's better than that, that's progress. And the second thing is creating a future that excites you and balancing the two. So your thoughts literally jump from I'm grateful I'm alive, like you're saying, I can breathe. Some people, not everyone wakes up, but we woke up. Oh my God, even if it's raining and you've had bad news, you're alive. Oh my God, you're alive. The universe is not done with you yet. So the present moment, wow, we're here, we're alive, we made the cut. Now, where are we going? And not to be in that future, but to simultaneously kind of balance the two like it's like a wave. So, forget the past. It literally has no power over you unless you're trying to remember where you put your keys. You know, Forget the past. Happy memories, great, but everything else, forget about it. The future, the the worrying future, forget about it. Who knows what's going to happen? Imagine where you want to go, put that GPS in, and just balance those two. And when you tap into that every day, today I'm going to be present and I'm going to be excited about what's on the horizon. I truly believe that if you do that every day, your week will be entirely different because you'll start to notice the thoughts that belong to the past and you go, oh, no, I'm not allowed to do that. You start to notice the thoughts, the worrying future. Oh, no, I'm not allowed to do that either. And you're left with here and now and an exciting horizon. And then the great thing about that is that's what creates it.
Mm.
It's the biggest
Yeah.
paradox
Yep.
that we didn't get taught at school. is if you choose it up here and you spend your time in the present leaning into it, creating that action, and like look at the word action, act. It's all in there. Act, put some action into it. You start creating that path. And look, dyslexic, my vocabulary was terrible. I wasn't confident, all of that stuff. I just imagined what I wanted. And before I knew it, which took a while to be fair, I've created the life I want. I'm living my dream life. And, I've still got some stuff to deal with, but it's a million years away from where I was.
My heart's doing this thing that happens when I do these Zooms sometimes, and it's just like wanting to bounce out of my chest because I'm so grateful that you're here sharing this. I'm so grateful everybody that's listening live, and I'm just like I really hope you're taking this on board because on one hand it's so simplistic, and on the other it's so profound and it's so important and it's transformational, which is kind of what is in your title, I guess. So it makes sense. I also want to ask you just before we start to wrap up, because as a guy myself who's in a relatively new relationship and it's a bloody good one. So unlike previous relationships, I'd like this one to hang around. I believe, have you been with your partner in around 20 years? Is,
Yeah.
so, I mean, first and foremost, what an incredible thing. What's the tips you can give me on this? Like how, because, and I think importantly, crucially, something that stood out to me is saying that at the time, she was your girlfriend and she was there when it wasn't how the life is today. It was, addicted to alcohol, it was the anxiety, and she helped you. But she was part of that
And I
catalyst
had
to change.
dreadlocks as well, a white guy with dreadlocks.
Jeez.
What was she doing?
So give us a little bit of insight into that journey, if you will, in terms of, why it's worked, what the work is, because I think that's an important part is recognizing it's not just fairy stories and they live happily ever after dot dot dot. There's a conscious effort to make it work, right? Is there anything you can share?
There's just one word that's just kind of coming up, communication. And I, I honestly believe that is the key to all relationships. And so my wife and I, we talk. And if my face looks like this, she goes, "What's that about?" And I'm like, "Oh," and I'll tell her what it's about. Like, um, we just talk and we have, if anything, lots of mini, sometimes uncomfortable conversations for a glorious, most of the time. And it's definitely just been down to communication. And to the point where I was going on tour with my band, and because of what I do as well, a lot of that bleeds into my lyrics and also how I talk and what I think about. And I sat my friend down in the pub. This is quite a while ago now. And I said, "We're about to have a conversation that's going to be slightly uncomfortable, but it's going to be, for the greater good." And he was like, "Oh God, here we go. What have you got?" And I said, "I want you to tell me what you don't like about me. And I want you to be completely honest." And he was like, "What? Why? Why?" And I said, "Because if there's anything I can do to, be better or to be better around you so you're more comfortable, when we're on tour together, it's you're together all the time." I said, "I want to work on that. I want to be a better person around you so you can have a better time." And he was like, "Oh, all right, all right." So he said to me, "All right, if you really want to know," and this was quite a long time ago, he says, "Sometimes it comes across like you've got an answer for everything." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, of course. I could have told you that one." And that's why I created MindWave, because I've got so much I want to share. So I created this business. Um, and he was bad with communication. I told him that. And we both worked on it. And when I wanted to just say, "Oh, I know what you need to do," I held back. And I've got this little
Mm.
rule that I created called the 10% rule. And it works for all relationships with anybody, your mother, your whoever. If you're really passionate about something and you just have to tell that person the thing, give them 10% and see how they react. And if they give you that face of like, oh yeah, go on, give them another 10%, and just do it in 10% chunks. And if after that first one, they're not interested and it's clear, change the subject, it's not for them. And I love comedy. I'm a comedy nerd. I'm rabbiting on about comedy to my wife, and I can just see that she's like, I'm not the person for this. So my practice is going, oh, ooh, I'll save that for my friend. And communication, it's everything. It's reading people and realizing that not everybody wants to hear everything that comes out of your mouth. And that's okay. And if you can be okay with not being wanting to be loved all the time or heard all of the time, and just realize that's what it comes down to. It's a dance. It's a back and a forth. So even now I'm hearing myself talking a lot and I'm wanting to pass it over to you just to keep the flow.
I think that's my cue. I love that. There was so much in that. And I was thinking, probably, I assume you might have similar things as I do, which is, I like to go deep when I'm having conversations. And it's that awareness to go, I've done my 10%. They don't want to keep going. Shut up, Matt. And it's about knowing who are the people that want to do the deep and talk for hours, and who are the ones that just like to keep it light every now and then. And I just can see so clearly how what you're saying there will serve every relationship. It's communication and it's awareness. And I love that. We're going to have to start wrapping up with some of the final kind of general questions I ask all
Sure.
guests before we do the Q&A with the members this evening. So first question is, what is some of the best advice that you've received in your life and why?
Do one thing until completion. This is the thing that's helped me more than anything. I stopped, and this is one of the hardest things I've ever done, looked in the mirror, and I just had a word with myself just by looking into my eyes. And I realized if I truly want my music career, I need to put that on the shelf and I need to support myself so I can fund that for a start, because I flash forward 20 years and neither of them went anywhere. Me coming back to my band has taken nearly 3 years. And there's been times when I've just been going, yeah, in my head, like, I just want to do them both because I love them both. But if I truly love them both and truly want them to work, there's got to be some kind of sequence. And we all know how much energy and effort and time it takes to make something happen. And I realized I love them both equally and I wanted to make them both happen. So I put one in front of the other. And I had boundaries. I'm not allowed to touch that until I've got this to where I wanted to get it. And that's been, now that I've brought the second layer in of my 6-part plan, I'm on level 2. I'm on my path. That comes back to the present thing, which makes me go, I can sleep at night.
So there's comments going off in the chat. I think people are thinking I've paid you to say this right now because it aligns so much with what I speak all the time. My head was nodding that much. Does anyone remember when they used to talk about David Gray, the singer, how his head was going to fall off?
Yes.
I was thinking my head was going to fall off then, because I really hope that, hearing Ali say that, tonight is just reiterating such an important point about the effort and the energy into doing something well. It's really hard to get an amazing result when you're trying to do 5 or 10 things well and you want them all to be amazing at the same time. It's not to say you can't do them all. It's just about having a strategic look at it and a realistic approach. And that's what what you're saying there. So amazing. Okay, but yeah, all right, I'll stop nodding now. I'm nodding dog like the Churchill dog. All right, next one. Flip side, what is some of the worst advice that might have been well-intentioned, or it might be something you've seen online, but really, from your experience, it was just awful advice?
Do you know what? I think we should move on because the thing that's coming up is what that guy said. Good luck with that. Because I've never really had any bad advice, but that was the one thing that was the bad advice that I nearly went, well, if he's saying that,
yeah,
I'm just going to go back down. So if anything, it's not really the worst advice, but I'm going to mix the two questions in saying, don't take any advice from anyone that hasn't done what it is that you want to do.
And the next one is, what is the biggest mistake you made and what did it teach you?
So I got into this business, nobody really knows what they're doing, really, do they? Everyone's kind of just winging it. We all know what we know, and we're just showing up and figuring it out. And I was doing my one-on-one, I knew what I was doing there, and then I was like, I'm gonna make a course. I'm gonna make the greatest course anyone's ever made. So I started doing this course, I started planning it out, and I'm like 4 months in. It was meant to be done in three. Oh, well, I found this book with all this. Oh, this has got to be in it. Oh, hang on, this has got to be in it. And it was, it took about a year. And I created 100 videos, a 400-page workbook, and it's just a monster course. Completely impossible to market. It solves so many problems. We've got to solve one problem for one person, get them from A to B. I didn't know marketing, I didn't know sales, I didn't have a mentor, I didn't have any of those things. I was leaning in, just doing what I thought was necessary. And long story short, I realized I spent a lot of time creating something without seeing if there was a market for it, doing any market research, just ego. It was I know best. I'm just going to follow my heart. It will be fine. And a lot of the times that's great, but when you're creating something like that, there's so many things that you can learn. So the worst thing I ever did was spend so much time and energy on something that I'd not tested, or not blah 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 blah. But the great thing is, I don't believe in mistakes. I believe everything happens for a reason. You learn from it. And now we've come to the other side of it. I'm breaking that course down and I'm packaging it up, and it's going to be for my membership. So I'm using it all, but not in the way that I thought. And you just live and learn. So I'd never do that again. I'd create small courses. I'd solve one problem for one person, and I'll make the best version of it I possibly can, instead of trying to please everyone.
Quick question. This is probably the most important question you will answer today. Have you got your tickets to our next event yet? Seriously, guys, I'm not just bigging this up because it's my event. Genuinely, this is gonna be one of the best events of 2025. Out of everything that I do, I can honestly say this is the thing I put the most energy, effort, attention into, and it's one of the things I enjoy the most. It's going to be a day jam-packed with incredible speakers talking about business, mindset, sales, and marketing. And not only is there going to be some incredible speakers, but this is going to be a room filled with people who are committed to being the best version of themselves, which I would say is going to be quite a good room to be in if you want to achieve more in your life. So if you haven't already, make sure you click the link in the show notes, get your tickets, and I'll be so excited to see you there on Sunday, the 2nd of February. Get your tickets. Have you got them yet? Right. We'll get back to the episode. Okay, last couple of questions is, if you were to give the listeners 3 life lessons, 3 truths that you know about life and the world to help them live a happier, a healthier, and a more fulfilling life, what would be 3 things you could share to guide them on that path? Okay.
This one's a little bit brutal, but I'm blunt, and everything always comes from love and light. Always. That's what I am, love and light. So I mean this with good intentions, but you could go, and it's this. It was what it was. It is what it is. It will be what it'll be. And that doesn't sound so brutal, but what it is, it removes you from the emotion. It removes you from the narration of the problem. So no matter what is happening in your life at any point, the severity of it doesn't matter. It was what it was. But it was what it was. You don't know what it was was. I've heard people, but you don't know it was what it was, like almost robotic. And it's the suffering comes from our attachment. to the past. And I'm not saying what it was easy. I'm not saying any of that. It just was what it was. It's almost just like a neutral statement. What's happening now is what it is. It just is what it is. And it will be what it will be. That has helped me more than anything. Because again, with my dad, I was coming back and I started to notice, and I went through all of, cried and cried and at the right times, and it was, it was great. And at the same time, it is what it is, and it will be what it will be, and it'll probably be more waves and blah 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 blah. But those three lines I would write down and I would stick somewhere. I'd have them in your purse, your wallet, your home screen, and just use it. Anytime something happens, it is what it is. And what happens is you start to feel separate from the. So that'd be number one. Number two would be, it's another one. I have always had enough, or I have enough. I will always have enough. No, let me get it again. I have enough. I have always had enough. I will always have enough. This is gold. And most people go, well, I haven't got enough. I want this. It's not what you want. And so even in poverty, the universe will always give you just enough to be. And the problem with most people with manifesting is you stop the manifestation because you're like, where is it? It should be here by now. And when you come from this mindset of, I have enough, you'll always want more. Everybody always wants more. But I have enough to just be alive and be, to smile, to feel love and to breathe. And actually, I've always had enough. I might not have had more than enough, but I've had enough. And I will always have enough. When you program this one, life completely changes because you're abundant. You're living in abundance. And anything that comes into your life is just a bonus. So keep manifesting and trying to get more, but come from the space of already done.
And I guess it reminds me of this idea that I am enough as well, right? Which is,
oh, sorry, that's the fourth. That's the end bit.
oh, that's the next. There we
Yeah,
go. Ta-da, we got there.
yeah,
But
yeah.
it
Well,
is,
thanks.
it's that thing of people are always chasing an outcome because they feel it will make them become more or be more or feel more worthy. But you always were the same you.
Even when you're a multimillionaire, if that's what you want, you're going to be the same you. So just be that now
That's
and
it.
start guiding yourself where you want to be. But exactly that, I am enough. So nothing that you want in the future should get in the way of your worthiness. Be
Mm.
worthy now.
Wow.
Beyond feeling worthy and not feeling worthy, I am.
Mm.
That's another one which is really powerful. If you're ever like, oh, just go, hang on a second. Beyond the conversation that I'm creating about being worthy or not being worthy, I am. And you kind of go, ooh. In fact, if you say it, it's really powerful because you go, it's truth. It's true. So I'd say that would be the third one. Is say that out loud and feel how your body feels when you say, beyond feeling worthy or not feeling worthy, I am. And you claim it. You claim your power. Everybody sees the same amount of stars. We're all interconnected. All truly is one. We're all from the same. We all come from the same thing. Separation is the biggest illusion. So this worthiness or lack of worthiness is just what we've created based on our past programming. And when we realize, oh, hang on a second, anyone I see doing something I want to do myself is actually just a reflection showing me that I can do it too. So, it's claiming your power by remembering that we are all one. There is no separation.
Ali, this has been absolutely phenomenal. I feel an overwhelming sense of gratitude,
Oh,
of
me
passion.
too.
I feel a little bit emotional. I've got neck ache from literally got neck ache from nodding my head too bloody much. Genuinely. Just thank you so much. This is incredible. And I really hope people listening have taken so much away. And if not, listen to it again and again and again, because there's so much you can get out of this. Just before we hand over to the Q&A, if people want to find more of you online and get involved in more of what you do and what you offer, tell them how can they do it?
Okay, well, I'm mainly on Instagram and TikTok when I remember to do TikTok.
Yeah.
MindWave Transformation. I haven't got a website at the moment. I kind of came away from the website and realized that actually everyone's just on social media. You kind of lose people actually, I found when they went to the website.
Mm.
So I'm just in one place on YouTube. And in a nutshell, so much free information on YouTube. Or if you want to work with me one-to-one, I do single sessions, bundle sessions, or we do a 6-week course, which will be online soon. And I guide people through these 6 principles, which is kind of what I've been saying today. And I just know that when you learn these simple things and you master them, like the self-talk, the meditation, and rewiring yourself for what you do want rather than what you don't want, you can't unlearn this stuff.
Mm.
So when you come out the other side, you have literally transformed. And because you can't unlearn what you've just learned through going through it, it's almost like you don't need anything else for your spiritual self-development toolkit. I wanted to create something where people kind of stop seeking. Like I didn't want to always be looking for the next coach and guide and teacher and guru. I wanted to have a bag of tools that worked that I could rely on, like spices. I need a bit of cayenne. I need a bit of this. You know where they are, you know what they do, you know how they taste, and they work.
Mm.
So YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and just DM me and let's just chat.
Amazing. Absolutely. Get on that, people. Final question before we head over to the Q&A. Ali, what is your definition of success?
I actually wrote a note because I've thought about this before and I've forgotten it so many times. There is a guy called Neville Goddard. I don't know if anybody knows Neville. Has anyone heard of Neville Goddard? I'm seeing, oh, got one hand. He's almost like the granddad of all of this stuff. And he wrote a quote that made me just go, that's it. That is the one I needed at that point in time. And it's this: success is not about gaining attention or recognition from others. True success is about aligning with your divine nature and expressing it fully to the world. So, if you don't like the word divine or anything, that's fine. Forget that. But ultimately speaking, we've all probably met them. I know a couple of multimillionaires, and they're all on to the next thing. So, they're still trying to be more successful. And if you look at it, it really comes down to what we're talking about: knowing who you are, what your calling is, what your purpose is, doing it and actualizing it and expressing it. And I've had clients before where I've had to say, hey, you're just consuming information now. You're just on a cycle of consuming information constantly. Books, courses. Why aren't you doing the thing that we both know you're meant to be doing? It's been 2 years now. What's going on? Oh, do it. Otherwise, no more of this. I've cut people off. Like, you've got to go and do the thing now. One life. This isn't a rehearsal, people. This is it. This is it. So if you know what you're meant to be doing and you're not doing it, I'm going to end it on a brutal one. You're being selfish. If you're not doing the thing you're meant to be doing that you feel, you're being selfish because you're just thinking about me, 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 me. Oh, because I've got this and I've got this. There's people that need you. there's people that need your wisdom, your gifts. And I don't know what you all do, but I know it's good things because I can see all these amazing faces and I can see your energy, and it's you have power and wisdom that is up here and it's beating here, and I can literally feel it by looking at you. And it's our own self-doubts, our own little imposter syndrome that makes us stay small. And I want you to listen to this selfish thing. Like, yes, if I'm not doing it, I'm just thinking about me, 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 me. When the world, especially now, the world needs you to step up and step into your light and do it. And so just to wrap that up, I wasn't doing the Instagram lives because I knew people, my family and my friends on there. And I was like, I'll just do TikTok because I don't know people on TikTok. And I could feel this feeling of you're being selfish because you're just thinking about you, and you don't want your old friend popping up. So I catch myself all the time and see where I can express myself more and just go, fuck it, one life, who cares? you know, and just put myself out there, even if it makes me uncomfortable. And it's often when I do that you get the good response, and you know the story.
Ali, thank you so much.